Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Appreciate you guys. Another day here in Las Vegas. Here for the Canelo Alvarez fight. Of course, still reeling from the Miami Heat season coming to an end, to the Boston Celtics. Loved Eric Spoelstra yesterday. He was like, I will watch none of this. I agree with him. I don't even know how much of the this is objectively a good playoff night tonight. I'm actually even confused on time. Is it going on right now? It might be going on right now. I'm all out of whack on my time zones and where I am and where things are going right now. Holy crap, won't you look at that? There's a Bucks-Pacers game going on right now. Didn't even know. But the big thing that was reported today was from Anthony Chang of the Miami Herald. We talked a little bit about this yesterday on the series wrap-up, how the Miami Heat are definitely heading towards an off-season with a lot of questions. A lot of questions about timeline and, you know, what are they going to do with their stars? What are they going to do with their roster? What is the game plan from here? And this article that comes out today from Anthony Chang is discussing the potential extension that Jimmy Butler is looking for. And this is the report that he has where he says Butler, who is 35, is expected to seek a 2-year maximum contract extension for about $113 million this offseason, according to a league source. The 3-year, $146 million extension that Butler signed in 2021. That includes a guaranteed year of $48.8 for next season and $52.4 in a player option. The extension would replace his option year and begin that season, so it would be a 2-year max of $54 million. So just to put it in, that year, if Jimmy Butler sticks where he's at right now, just to be clear on it, this year upcoming, 24-25, is already on the books under his contract, right? Jimmy Butler is going to make $52 million the next year under a player option. This deal would put it to $54. Really negligible. And then Anthony points out something that I did not know, which was that the extension can only go an extra year because of the over 38 rule. So the third year of this deal, which would be the year after a player option. So he essentially, if Jimmy wanted to, has 2 years guaranteed already. This is basically adding a third year guaranteed at $58 million, right? But it is, pointed out that if salary cap goes up, whatever. Butler this is what Anthony writes. Butler is limited to a maximum 2-year extension because the over 38 rule does not allow him to sign a new contract that would take him past the next 3 years, including 1 season of guaranteed money on his current deal. So it's, it's interesting. When you put it like that, right? When you put it in the realm of, do you give the guy 1 extra year of an extension? Because you're already committed to him, essentially. And it's a bump of a year, and then it's another year. But it is going to be him at 37, right? Physical player. The numbers, there was a great breakdown today by Bobby Marks of ESPN that talked about Jimmy Butler's drives to the rim. And that Jimmy Butler is one of 8 players to average 20 points on 40% shooting on 3-pointers, 85% on free throws. But he will turn 34 years old, has not played more than 65 in each of the past 4 seasons. And Butler saw his field goal percentage drop from 54% to 50% this year, largely due to his struggles to finish near the rim. Per second spectrum, Butler shot 44% on drives this season. That is 7th worst in the NBA among players with at least 250 field goal attempts. And that was definitely a thing that was noticeable this year. Jimmy Butler's ability to get to the rim and score effectively, get those and ones. This man can will himself like none other to go out there. I mean, I always say, I said Jimmy Butler can just squeeze 15, 16 points just out of iron will, no matter when he steps onto a court. But you do wonder with his playing style, does it become too physically taxing to deal with in the years that are coming up? Because Jimmy Butler this year did see a scoring dip from the year beforehand. You know, he was a guy who averaged nearly 23 points a game this year. This year, under 21. His free throws went down an attempt, down a make. Still did make, still a good free throw shooter when he gets there, but there was a dip. He shot more threes, which is going to be a way where, like, if that isn't part of his game, especially in the regular season, him shooting more threes, he probably has to even go higher than 2 attempts. He might have to be a guy who's, shooting 3 a game. He might have to be a guy that's shooting 4 a game. He might need that to become more of an element of his game. We've seen other guys do this, who have eased the tension off of driving at the rim like a maniac and tried to improve their 3-point shooting. If you wanted to put a comparison on it, like, you could go from the standpoint of, like, I don't know, I want to say like LeBron, but even LeBron has shot a lot more threes than Jimmy Butler has in his Heat career. Noticeably you can see, like, LeBron's free throws and those attempts just gradually went down, since he's been on the Lakers. Precipitous dip since he's gone there. It's natural. You're not gonna throw your neck at the rim your entire career. So that is the big question that Miami's got to deal with when it comes to Jimmy, is, like, sentimentally, does he deserve it? Yeah, probably. That this guy is a fan favorite, the face of your franchise, has had a lot of success. Is it worth an extra year just to keep him happy, just to show your appreciation? Yeah, especially with the idea of, will he be a malcontent? Now, this is going to be an interesting thing, though. Like, the fact that that's out there in the ether, right? Everybody goes back to a Jimmy Butler who acted the way that he did in Minnesota, where he hosed everybody down and, had the famous practice and all that stuff, and didn't believe in Karl Anthony Towns or Andrew Wiggins and all that stuff. It is an interesting thing, though. Like, that was a guy who wasn't even 30 yet. Does a Jimmy Butler making a stink at 35, is that still in him? And I think that's going to be the big question with the Miami Heat when they discuss this, because I don't think Pat Riley wants to just throw down the kick rocks method with Jimmy Butler. I think Pat Riley respects a lot of things about the way Jimmy Butler plays, but I do think Pat Riley he'll call out anybody. And it will be interesting to hear what Pat Riley has to say about this, because one of the big things I've been talking about this. You could ask some of the guys that have been, we're riffing about this, the media members, and I've been talking about this a lot this season. It's like, what is going to happen when Jimmy doesn't get the extension he wants and Bam does? That is going to be interesting. But you do have to account for Jimmy. Says that he wants to stay in Miami the rest of his career, doesn't want to play for anybody else. He says that he wants to open up a coffee shop down here, likes it down here, doesn't have the and really the organization does, let Jimmy kind of do Jimmy. I think Jimmy's got good arguments on it, but I think the Heat have warranted concerns. And it's going to be interesting because of their pick situation and owing the picks that they do to OKC and Charlotte. They cannot really go in the toilet. They cannot go full tank. And quite frankly, I don't even think it's right for a guy like even Bam at a buyout for you to say, hey, let's rip it down from the studs. Let's trade everybody and put a youth movement around Bam at a buyout. I don't even think that's fair to Bam. Bam wants to win. Bam wants to, he's going 27. He doesn't want to look at all of his peers and think to himself, oh, great, I'm in the midst of a rebuild here. So this is going to be full of tough questions for sure. And to know what has the relationship with the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler, like what has it bought them that that they've had success together, that they've given Jimmy an extension, they have taken care of him, they gave him the the contract he wanted when he first got here. They gave him the contract a couple of years ago. So at first trepidation at not wanting to pay you $60 million at the age of 37, is that going to cause, let's see, it says whether the Heat gives Butler this deal will decide in the coming months as the window to sign him in the extension opens July 7th, with Butler expected to go for the extension that includes declining his 25-26 option, replacing it with a new 2-year contract. The window to sign that type of deal doesn't close until June 30th of 2025. But the expectation is that Butler and his camp will push for that extension before the start of the upcoming season. Choosing to not offer that exact extension could lead to a disgruntled Butler. Here's something that's interesting about that. I told you, if you go back and you look at Jimmy and his time with the Miami Heat, because you've seen some extensions get thrown. Kawhi got an extension in the middle of this year. I want to say Miles Turner got a middle of the year extension. That could be something where the Heat are just like, okay, we like how he came back in the middle of this. Let's see, he's not going to hold out of camp, right? So, yeah, maybe that's the mutual ground there, where it's like, hey, let's see you come back and let's see you, be able to give us this X amount of games, and then we'll decide. Look, the easy thing to do is just to give him the extension, not worry about the headache. Find yourself in a position where it's like, hey, Jimmy's happy, no headache, still a pretty good player. Can we actually go to work and find the right teammates and role players around him and around Bam Adebayo? The question for the Heat is, though, can they look upon a guy that they're paying that much money? Do they really still think that Jimmy can dial it up and will be there for them for the playoff runs? And can he be there consistently and put a value? Will this last 2 years be a lesson to the Miami Heat? Hey, play with fire. 2 years ago, you were unbelievable. Nobody thought you could do that. You did that. Calling yourself the best player in the world as he's walking off the court, rightfully so, against the during the Knicks series, rightfully so. The way he was playing made it feel like the regular season was completely meaningless. NBA's making up stupid tournaments in the middle of the year to try and draw interest. But, you tried to play with fire, saying it's that time, and then it just wasn't firing all cylinders. And it wasn't just firing on all cylinders in that he didn't show up for games. I think the guy that showed up to games just wasn't quite as good as the guy that we saw in the playoffs. Gave you the numbers at the rim. Didn't think the jump shot was as sharp, especially towards the end of the season. Maybe he was banged up, but that is kind of the worry of this. So I'm very curious to see what Pat Riley says publicly about it. Jimmy's agent can be active on social media, and so curious to see if there's anything from that regard as well. If there's a game there that's played, we know that his, some people around Jimmy's camp, will they put the public pressure on it in any way? Who knows? These summer, that's kind of what the fun of these summertime games are. I remember, when it happened with Wade, Wade was Snapchatting with LeBron and was playing "Bitch Better Have My Money," and that one ended badly. So, what does the summer of Jimmy's extension mean for them? Because it really is the key to everything, right? It's like it determines, are they, gonna build around him? Is he gonna actually ask out if he didn't get what he wanted? If he does, where do you send him? What do you get for a Jimmy Butler? What does that end up? It's a very, very, very fascinating question that feels like it could have a lot of drama, because this has been a player in the past before he got to Miami that has had a ton of drama. When he got to Miami, there's been things that have, I think, perturbed people, but I don't think that there's been a ton of drama with Jimmy Butler. But we know what the track record was before he got to Miami, but that was a much younger player. So very, very fascinating times coming ahead for the Miami Heat.